I'm just having a flashback. One of my previous relationships, we saw money differently. And I think for me, what's important is I'm like deviating, but I vet guys if they have like a poor mindset. So in the sense of like, not just poor financially, but poor ambition wise. If you have a passion for, I don't know, like helping people or like a career that doesn't make a lot of money, but that you're able to create different avenues for income and not stay where you are.
Yeah.
Like that's important. I think that's a green flag for me.
Yeah. So I could tell you as a guy,
Okay.
if a guy's interested in you, they're going to be like outlandish, like truly.
Don't get trapped funding a Miami mommy.
Whew. Yeah. So
Hello, and we're back with the Macro Show with Forrest Knight, and we have some more questions. Welcome back. I am Andrea, and I'm with Forrest with the Macro Show, and we're going to hop into some interesting questions.
awesome. Happy to have you back. So yeah, this is going to be like a Q&A. This is going to be whatever it is, but yeah.
Yeah, what I'm curious about are some questions that like the average, person might be wondering and seeking advice on, I think at the end of the day, when it comes to finances.
Sure.
One of the biggest stressors, I think, is money around finances
Yep.
and relationships.
Yes.
So
Let's dig into that.
let's dig into that.
Yeah.
Let's dig into dating and
Yeah.
money and who pays for what. If you get asked out on a date, what are the
Yeah.
expectations?
Well, I have dated and I do have money, so
Oh,
I have relevant experience. Yeah.
all right. So share with us what's
So-
your perspective on the dynamic between dating? Are you investing into that person right off the bat, or are you vetting them out
Investing?
first?
Am I
Yeah.
investing in them?
I mean, you
Drea?
are. I mean, you are. If you're like dating them, let's say weekly, like you're taking
So
them
I
out.
think because the whole like dating thing goes into like so many like ancillary and then you got I'll say this, I'm very like anti-red pill. I'll say that
Okay.
like, as it is today. So I don't want anybody to construe what I'm saying as I'm a red pillar. I'm traditional though.
Okay.
Okay. So I always pay. Like anytime I'm with especially if I'm dating somebody, like I just always pay. It's automatic. I like to pay. Right. So I pay. Many of the people that I'm dating, including my current girlfriend, like she'll pay sometimes, she'll offer to pay, but she literally has to you got to convince me not to pay because I'm just like, why would you pay? That's me. So, and that's the way I've always been.
Okay.
I definitely, now, in terms of expectations, I would never date somebody who thought that my money was theirs. Okay, so it's not just about the outcome, it's about how you get there.
Okay.
Right? So it's like, I'm happy to pay for somebody who appreciates me, blah, 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 blah. But
Right.
as soon as a woman's like, oh,
Feels entitled.
like you're spending my money, it's like, no, I'll spend my money, but you're not spending my money, especially early on. Like later, that's different, but it's still my money.
Do you place that boundary in the beginning, or do you kind of see how this person responds to your generosity?
The latter. I'm
Okay.
again, I'm not going to come out and be like, this is like how we're going to operate. And it's more so just like, that's just
Organic.
the vibe. Like, this is how I pay. Like if a woman offers to pay or like she pays, like, I'm not going to be like, that's dope. Like, that's fine. That's totally fine by me. Like, I'm not going to stop her,
Okay.
especially early, but I'm also not going to the only thing that I would do, imagine you first start, we have to scope this. So if I was just meeting somebody and dating them, I would always offer to pay, but I would never, the only thing that I would bring up is if they were really had outlandish expectations for the dates or whatever, yo, let's do
Right.
this. And I'm like, that's $3,000. It's do you want to do that because you just think I got it? Because I'm not
Yeah. Have you ever been on a date where a girl expected you to lay out racks?
Yeah, and it's just not. It's not fun.
Can you share that story? It wasn't here in Miami, was it?
No, it's
'Cause
long.
Miami girls,
So in New York, single for a little bit, and New York, similar to Miami, is just a city where you can blow just you can spend $7,000 in a night easily if you wanted to. So went out with a girl. We went to this nightclub. She wanted to get a table. So I love to go out and dance. I'm a dancer though.
Right.
So my thing is I'll spend money on whatever drinks we're having, but I'm not somebody who wants to get a booth and prove that I can get a booth. Right?
Right.
Anybody can swipe a credit card, right? By the way. So So you ever see anybody in a booth, guys? Like they could just be, doesn't mean they're rich. This means they've got a credit line, okay? Every nightclub accepts credit cards. So I'm well beyond that. In my early 20s, different story. Like I was doing all types of dumb stuff.
Yeah.
But now I was just like, oh, so we go out, I begrudgingly, because I had a really good night before that, but then I was like, all right, so then we get the table. It's just the two of us, got this whole bottle. Damn. But at that point, so like my mistake was I should have just said no. Because I already knew I was like, that was it. Like that was the end of that. Like that moment where she was just like, yo, let's go spend $2,000. Which is like, I could afford it, but that's not the point. Like for me,
yeah,
it's just it's a waste of money, huge waste of money versus like for like an okay time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'd rather spend, like if she was like, I would have rather bought plane tickets. If she was like, yo, let's go wherever. I was like, I would have bought the tickets.
Instead
that would have been fun, but.
Yeah, I don't think that's a waste of money to me, like buying a table at a nightclub.
Yeah, for nothing, like.
No.
For like celebrating something or want to sit down,
right.
Like.
That's a different story.
But yeah, I can't. Yeah.
No.
What else you got?
I guess in like long-term relationships, what is your process with discussing money and how to handle finances like as a couple?
So long-term, everything changes, right? Because now you have like, you're essentially, if you're living with your partner, right? You just got to talk about it. Like you just got to like, not down to the penny, but kind of, you just got to figure out like who's going to pay for what, right? So if you split the rent, like one person makes more than the other, which is the case for us, like it doesn't make sense to split it down the middle.
Right.
Especially if one person makes substantially more, or even if it's not substantially, like let's say one person makes $50,000 a year, another person makes 90. So, which I guess is almost double, but the difference in lifestyle between someone making 50K and 90K isn't drastic.
Right. But
the free cash flow for someone making 90 grand is still a little bit more. Right? So it's like you should probably split the rent like 70-30, 60-40, right? But you don't want to burden the other person because you want to live, somewhere else. So those are the types of things that you'll have to actually navigate. And those are conversations that, I've had to have as well.
And how long into the relationship do you begin to ask those questions? Or should you?
I mean, I'm the worst person to ask for relationship advice, but I'll tell you this, earlier is better because the decisions you make today are going to, this sounds super simple, but especially financially, determine your future, right? Even just where you live. I think a lot of people over-romanticize what like a long-term relationship is, and it's like eventually it's just you and another person living together. And like, me and Brianna have been together for like a long time now, so it's like they say like when people are married, it's just like, it's literally like some days you're just like roommates.
Yeah.
It's like I have stuff that I'm doing, she has her life, and sometimes we're spending every minute together and sometimes we're just like not. So you have to understand that like each of you has your own habitation needs over a lifetime. If you stretch that out over 30, 40 years, like those could change, right? Like what you like all those things are going to change. So like when you meet somebody and like you're willing to compromise head over heels because they're super hot or whatever and they make you feel lovey-dovey, when all of those emotions are gone and all that's left is like, I live in whatever city I live in, and I want to move. They don't want to move, or I want to move to a different block.
Right.
They don't want to move to a different block, or vice versa. Like, all of that matters. So imagine paying rent in a place you don't want to live in, but partner loves living there, right? Or vice versa. So those are the types of like financial things. And so it's like you don't ever want to, or in the original example, right? The person who's making more money, the other person doesn't ever want to feel trapped, right? So, and this is something that's really important to me, especially like, it's not really to put my mom on blast or anything, but she had been in relationships where she became very financially dependent on her husband. She's been married multiple times now, but one of her husbands. And he used that to like essentially control her.
Right.
It's like financial abuse essentially. So he's like, first he's like, hey, yeah, I'll pay for everything. But now, and he had control of the bank accounts. And so she appreciated that up front because my mom, took care of me and my sisters like by herself for a long time. So this was after we were all grown. She got remarried and she was looking for somebody to like take care of her for a change, which sounds nice on paper, but he essentially abused that fact to control my mother and do a bunch of other crap. So, which is a whole thing. So I don't want that to happen for anybody. It can go both ways. I think men are much more likely to do that to women than vice versa, but it certainly can go both ways.
Oh,
right?
for sure. So based off of that, what are I think I have two questions.
Yeah.
What are some green flags to look for in a partner regarding finances if you're planning on a long-term relationship with them.
Yeah. I think your perspective on money is really important. People, you're not going to get agreement on this, so I'm just going to tell you what I believe, right? But what I look for in someone is, like, I don't think relationships are transactional, right? So I think there are roles. It's going to sound super unromantic, but think of a company, right? So there's somebody whose job it is to do accounting. There's somebody whose job it is to be the CTO or the HR leader or the CEO, whatever it is. So there's work that needs to be done, and they're paid differently, but the whole thing won't work unless everybody's doing their job.
Right.
And I think that's the thing that people forget is, like, you can have, and like I said, I'm more traditional. At the end of the day, like, from a pragmatic sense, like, even just like chores, like, there's just stuff that has to get done.
Right.
Things that have to get paid for. Somebody has to do them, right? So whether you're more traditional or not, just understanding that money is a tool, and I might be able to make more of it than somebody else, but you never want to get in like a tit for tat type of like checklist thing, because long term it's super mentally exhausting, and
you could hold resentment towards that person as well, I think.
Yeah, definitely. So you just need to, how would I think about it? And everyone's going to think about it differently. So I think you need to understand, one, like, do you truly know what you want from money in your pursuit of money?
That's a great question.
And from an honest perspective. And then, do your expectations, are you holding your partner to a different standard than yourself in all things, but also money? And then two, do you know what they want? So it's like, first, what do I want?
Right.
How am I judging my partner? Am I holding them to unreasonable expectations in all things, but also money? And then three, what do they want out of money? Right? So it's a lot of things to navigate, especially on the long term. I think all this stuff, like, especially when you, like, on the internet, people talk about relationships, most of, like, what people discuss is, like, dating. Or not even dating, but it's like getting to a date. How do I get a date?
Right.
Or who pays on the first date? And I'm just like, who cares, dude?
Yeah.
Like, that's like that's like step zero of the rest of all the hard shit that actually happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of guys like to front on the first date, but I think I prefer, I mean, like, if you're just meeting somebody, you don't know them. It depends on how you met, though. And then I think that distinguishes what kind of date to go on and how much, like, you're investing in that date, if that makes sense.
What's the most amount of fronting you've seen, or that a man has?
I don't know if I want to share. I don't want to put anyone on blast.
You don't have to use names.
I know, but they're going to know.
They won't know.
Yes, they will.
All right, tell me after.
I'll tell you
after.
But to be honest, this might be a little sad, but I don't think, well, actually, I will share this. I think one of the most memorable dates was somebody came to visit me in college. I was in grad school. So they paid a plane ticket to come see me, and they planned where to go in my city to take me. So they took me to a rooftop in Charlotte. Well, they took me to this like cute little quaint restaurant in Charlotte, and then like a rooftop.
North Carolina?
Yeah, Charlotte, North Carolina.
You went to school in Charlotte?
No, I went to school in Columbia International University in Columbia, South Carolina. So Charlotte was just an hour north of me.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so they flew into Charlotte because the Columbia airport is super tiny. There's no direct flights.
You living in Carolina makes so much sense.
Really?
Yeah.
No, I've experienced a lot of...
Like, you said that, and I'm like, of course you did.
No, I experienced a lot of culture shock down there.
Really?
Yeah. Actually, I'm just having a flashback. One of my previous relationships, we saw money differently. And I think for me, what's important is, I'm like deviating, but I vet guys if they have like a poor mindset. So in the sense of like, not just poor financially, but poor ambition wise. If you have a passion for, I don't know, like helping people, or like a career that doesn't make a lot of money, but that you're able to create different avenues for income and not stay where you are.
Yeah.
Like, that's important. I think that's a green flag for me.
Yeah. I think ambition is important too. Like, a lot of people look at it as like, oh, women won't like me if I'm not pursuing money, but it's not as simple as that, because especially over a long time, like, there's like this simple word called inflation. So I know a lot of artists because I'm a dancer. So I know people who do art professionally, and you may as well.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of starving artists, right? And that's a term that we're all familiar with for a reason. And what's unfortunate is that what will happen is in art, you might have, say you have a 5-10 year run as an artist. You're making money, making money, making money, making money, making money. You're hot, right? Then what? It's not a traditional career. So you have to do something because you have to live. It's not even about like the other person, but it's like, if I'm going to date you and I know you're an artist and we're cohabitating, it's like, now I have to think, okay, do I want to take on the burden of knowing that I'm just gonna it's like, even if I love that person, like I'm literally gonna have to work harder because of their choices. You know what I'm saying? So it's not selfish. I mean, it can be. I mean, some people just like want to date people who are rich, which is fine, I guess. But
I mean, culturally, like in my family, like my Lebanese side, that's very important to them.
Which part? My
Lebanese family side.
No, I mean, what is important to them? Sorry.
How stable financially is like the person that I'm going to be with. So one of the first questions they ask is, what do they do? Yeah. You know, my dad used to say, love doesn't pay the bills.
Doesn't.
So you have to be smart.
Love can in fact create bills.
That's true. Very true.
And then you're like, who's going to pay these?
Who's going to pay?
Yeah, we did all this love and now we got 18 years of bills.
Yeah.
You know?
18 plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Crazy. But, I forgot where we were going with this, but
went on a tangent. It was a simple question, but it's a long answer just around perspectives on money in relationships. But in terms of dating, I think which is more accessible to everyone here, like from a guy's perspective, I would just say what's easily gained is easily lost, right? Mm-hmm. So if you get a woman easily because you're out here, you know, faking it, tricking, swiping credit cards, that's not sustainable, right? So she's with you now, easily gained, but one, if that's all it takes, then you know, someone with a higher credit limit, or maybe they have real money. Either way, you can't play that game. Like you just can't. Right. And you're going to end up, you know, either heartbroken or otherwise when you're unable to sustain that. And then vice versa. I grew up with 3 sisters and a mom who took care of all of us.
Wow, so that's impressive.
I heard a lot of first dating stories from their perspective. So my opinion, and I'm definitely curious about your opinion, but knowing how guys are, you know, for women, I would say definitely be down to like at least offer to pay on a first date. But this is a very, very high level litmus test. But it's not bad if you can find a guy who will pay on the first date. But you should offer. But it's just like the
woman offer or the guy offer? Women
should offer, but the guy should pay. So if you can find a guy who pays, that's better a guy who pays on the first date could be the worst guy ever.
That's true.
It doesn't mean anything, but it's like one little litmus test of like, all right, maybe it just gives you an idea of his perspective on relationships. You know?
I think for me, it's how they ask me is how I'm approaching the situation. Mm-hmm. So if they ask me to hang out, then I'll like offer to pay. Yeah. But if they're like, hey, I want to take you out, I'm assuming they're paying. That's how I see it.
How do you feel when guys are like, let's hang out versus like an actual...
I see it as like, okay, they're casual. They want to get to know me. Maybe they're vetting me. It also depends on like how I met them. Have they been a friend?
I have a very strong opinion on this.
Okay, tell me.
Based off my experience. And tell me how it's checked out. Have you ever gotten into like a really good long-term relationship with somebody like where it started like, let's hang out versus like, let's just go on a date?
In high school.
So no. Yeah. So I could tell you as a guy.
Okay.
If a guy's interested in you, they're going to be like outlandish, like truly. So like, and this is the same for me. I've done the same thing, right? Where I ask a girl like, yo, let's kick it. If I text a girl, yo, let's kick it. It's not serious.
You're not, yeah.
I'm not serious at all. If I like a girl, I'm like clearing the calendar.
Right.
I'm like, I want to take you out to this place at this time. Wear this.
Oh, wow. Wear this type of clothing.
Yeah, I'm very direct. I'm like, wear this. This is the vibe. We can match.
Yeah.
It'll be cute. You know?
That's cute.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But if I don't do that,
then you're not.
It's not serious.
You just want like to pass the time, have fun, but
that's just me. But a lot of guys.
Yeah,
do that too,
that's very popular. Like on social media, like if he would, what is it? If he wants to, he would.
Yeah, facts. I think, now, to play devil's advocate for if he wants to, he would. I think people obviously have anxiety. People get nervous. Like, all the onus is on guys to ask women out in our society.
That's true.
So women, I don't know if you've ever asked a guy out. Like, don't be afraid to ask a guy out. Like, he should take the lead from there. But, like, don't miss out on a husband just because he's scared. You know?
Right. No, I've been bold. I've walked up to a guy and was like, "Wow, you're really beautiful."
You hit him with the beautiful. You probably made
like
his life.
handsome. Yeah. And then I invited him to come like out with us to dance afterward because we were on a rooftop in Boston.
Yeah.
But he didn't come. But
Dang.
it's okay.
He was blown away by the beauty remark.
You know, I think he had a girlfriend. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh.
But he
maybe.
did dance with me a little bit, a little salsa.
There you go. All right.
But
Maybe he was busy.
Maybe he was busy.
Yeah.
Who knows?
All right. What else you got on that list?
Let's see.
I think that was one bullet.
That was. Okay, tell me about...
I'm telling you nothing. I'm kidding.
So, you are a black man. Yes. What was the joke you said the other day? Something about black being your favorite color.
Oh, yeah. I'm not a chocolate guy, but I am a chocolate guy.
It was funny. It was funny.
I've been saying that for 15 years. It's so stupid.
So tell me about your experience as a black male in America in the industry of finance. Any memories that stick out?
So I was working at Edward Jones right out of college, which is a retail brokerage. So retail brokerage just means they're an investment firm for regular people, right? So hedge funds, there's like enterprise investments, which are hedge funds, banks, and then retail investments are regular people. And so I was working there at corporate, and my boss was a black woman, and this was my first job out of college. And I had so many experiences there. They're all percolating to the surface right now of my brain, my psyche.
Ooh.
I was trying to think of a better word, consciousness. One of the first I remember, I'll come back to my boss being a black woman, but I was walking down or just walking down the hallway at work. It's like a suit and tie type of environment. Mm-hmm. And one of the leader, it's a partnership there. So he's one of the partners right there. Like he was a manager of something. I can't remember, something on the tech side. And he's like, "Hey, Forrest, what's up?" He's like, "Do you know anybody who could be an intern?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I put out referrals." But he leans in, he's like, "Yeah, but people like you, we need more." And I was just like, so at first I was just like, one, this is like an old white bald guy, by the way. I should have put that.
Yeah.
So a few generations higher. So immediately on the gate, it's easy. At first I was processing, and I was like, yeah, I'll think about it. So I was just like, and then the entire minute after that, or the rest of the day, and then even now, I still think about what his intentions were. And then as a black man in finance, or even just working in tech, you always ask this question of did I get hired because I was qualified, or because they were trying to fill a quota? Right. This guy just asked me do I know any? It's and the answer I always give people is if I knew black people that were qualified, I've already spoken to them. I promise you, I've called them, said, "Hey," But the unfortunate truth is I don't have a rap sheet of 14, black people looking for jobs. That are qualified. They're all employed, right? So all that's, the tail end of that discussion is we need to have better schooling so that there are more people in that position. But the flip side of that is there's a whole discussion about affirmative action and all that. But what that actually does to the people, again, and what I felt was damn, do I even deserve to be here, right? So that's the first question you ask yourself, literally in your entire career as a minority, is do people actually respect me, or are they just giving me 15 minutes because I'm the black guy? And so what you end up doing is you end up overperforming the entire time. Right?
I have heard of that.
Yeah, so you're just always trying to be a superstar to fight that that doubt.
Right.
But another thing I remember, my boss, she was sitting me down, and I think I was probably 22 at the time, black woman, and I think about all the conversation we had with her, now in retrospect, having went through the corporate field for a while. But she gave me so many nuggets of advice that I didn't fully appreciate. I appreciated them at the time, but I didn't understand until later, and I saw other people navigating corporate America, where she was coming from and why she actually took time out of her day. And there were a lot of interns, but there was only 2 black interns at that time, right, out of 30. And she just would specifically just give me nuggets of advice. And I was like, wow, this lady really cares. So I think part of it was that's her character, but also even just a simple thing. She's anything that's not written down is not real. And she said it to me out of the blue, out of nowhere. And granted, Edward Jones, everyone is super nice, seems super honest, but it's just she's 12 years my senior at the time, so she just knew. She's just like, yo, some bullshit's gonna happen. So like, she just told me, like, put it in an email after you leave a meeting. She told me every meeting you're in, write down what was said and then send it out in an email so that like nothing's ever left to conjecture, like all this stuff. And it was so useful because as you go through like corporate America and like the stakes get higher, right? As you get into sales, it's like, it makes sense. It's like, yeah, people, just random bullshit. People will be out to get you. And it's like, if it's not written down, it's not real.
You have to have those receipts.
At all. And people will lie to your face. They'll lie to your face. They'll lie, and everyone will be in on the lie because they know there's no proof. It's like the craziest stuff happens in corporate America. So those are some nuggets. I could talk about this for 4 days, but
Exactly 4 days.
Yeah. But
any advice for a young Black male just starting out in entrepreneurship?
I would just say, I mean, believe in yourself. This goes for everybody, but we all have. So I know what it's like to be Black. And a man. I don't know what it's like to be a woman, for example, right? So I was in a space that was dominated by white people. You've probably been in spaces dominated by men, right? So maybe not everybody will encounter this, but a lot of us will encounter it maybe in some way. But you just have to believe in yourself because it ultimately doesn't matter what they think, right? They're just gonna think it. So it's like as long as you do the work and do well, like ultimately that will overcome whatever bias. And people are gonna have biases.
Right.
Like some are silly, some are overt racism, but it literally doesn't matter. Like money talks. Like that's the one benefit. It's definitely has a good and a bad side, but like money definitely talks in corporate America. So like if you're making the business money, people don't care what your background is. Like they'll figure it out. You know, they'll become your biggest advocate. Like, we got to get more Black people. These Black motherfuckers. Black people are selling. You know, so it really is that stupid and simple.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but also again in terms of advice, like you just gotta trust yourself. You know, give people grace. I would say, like again, I still think about that guy's intentions. I'll never know. I didn't ask him, so I didn't give him this space of because maybe he really cares, right? He was older, so maybe he's had the opportunity in his lifetime, right, to work with a lot of people with minorities, and he knows that there's an issue at that company. Maybe he was just trying to fill a quota. I'll never know. Right, you'll never actually know, and so it's easy again to be defensive and assume that people are always coming from a place, especially when you don't have like a big rapport. I don't know, he doesn't know my life, I don't know his life, so it's easy to like rely on this societal like expectation of like, oh, they just don't like me, right? But that's
like your own bias.
Yeah, it's your own bias, right? Which is a result of like trauma, of like real trauma, but now it's like I'm projecting it on this one person, and it's like that person could be an ally. Maybe this is their first time being an ally. Right. So it's like, it gets super complicated very fast, which is why you have to give people grace. You have to give yourself grace and try to be positive because if you pursue the negativity, it'll never end. Right.
It's a cycle.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's very insightful. I have Miami Money Management.
Miami Money Management. So stay inside.
I mean, Miami is expensive. It's like one of the hottest places. People want to travel, live. There's a lot of luxury here. I don't think it's like it's getting to a New York. I mean, New York still has its own.
It's nothing like New York.
Nothing?
No.
I never lived there, so.
You got to go.
You
got to go.
I have been. People say it's different now after COVID.
Oh, if you went during COVID, yeah, it's not even the city. You need to go, like, you can do like a date weekend with your new man there, or solo, whatever you want to do it. But you have to do like a weekend, like staycation in New York is the real way to experience the city. Because the city is more than like the attractions. The heartbeat of New York City is the people. So like the reason why it'll really get a hold over you is just like, I don't know, a random day in New York. I remember I went to the park, I sat down, I drank some wine, I like listened to some live music. On the way home, like you'll see some crazy street performances. You'll run into like a famous person. You'll run, you just run into so many interesting people from all over the world. I ran into a famous, her and her husband owned like this multi-million-dollar gallery across the street, and I was at a bar just getting a burger, I just flown in. I was starving. She's like, oh yeah, me and my husband own this, blah, blah, blah. She was like an actress, and she was like in, what was this movie? This old movie with, not Morgan Freeman, the other old black guy. I'm mixing up black people. Not Denzel. The other old black guy. Who always says, I'm tired of these mother effing snakes on this. Samuel L. Jackson. So she showed me, and like, it's like you don't do that anywhere else. Not even Miami. Like, you don't meet true like actors and people here in Miami, right?
Yeah.
So, and the artist, I mean, I'm biased because I'm an artist, but you'll just meet all types of artists from all types of life in New York, and like just have these beautiful conversations, and then you'll never see them again. But there's always another interesting conversation around the corner, you know? So that's my little New York tangent. But
love that. Trying to think of another question related to that. I guess like what have you learned from living in Miami about the culture of money specifically in Miami? Like, for example, a guy can have a Mercedes Benz but live in an efficiency.
yeah.
So like,
which is crazy.
Yeah, they want to appear wealthy, but they're not.
Yeah, Miami attracts, and I'm glad I moved here like in my 30s, honestly, because I would have wasted time on this if I was younger. But it definitely attracts people who just like want to play. Like it's a playground. It has that appeal. People come here to like get rowdy and leave. It's like a Vegas, basically.
Yeah,
like,
I can see that.
so there's that. There's a lot of those people here, and there's a lot of people like in that cycle. People trying to like continually impress, especially like men impressing women. But this is a place here where women are like competing with each other. That's why BBLs are so like all of that. And like, I'm not saying any of that's wrong, but like to the extreme, it's definitely wrong. Which is like, so you see it like in its worst here for sure. So for money, I would just say like understand that, and I can tell you this as somebody who makes content, like none of this is real. Like the angle, the framing, everything you see on like all of this was like I was gonna shoot at a different angle, then I bumped the camera and now I'm shooting like this. Right? This was intentional, right? So everything that you're seeing about Miami or the people you meet here is intentional. It's not by accident. Even your authentic creators, it's not authentic. That was the third take. Like the authenticity. I'm being like dead serious.
Yeah, I believe you.
So it's like if you can accept that fact, then you can appreciate all the beautiful things that are here, right? There is like still a good culture. The art culture here is awesome. Like I love the graffiti and all of those things. The dance culture, music is great. And if you don't get sucked into that, like you can enjoy it in nuggets, like all, vices or whatever you want to call it. But like, don't get wrapped. Like if you're somebody with I've seen worse than that. Like there are people with like Lambos.
Wow.
And I even ask it like in my building, there's a few Lamborghinis and stuff like that. And I'm just like, okay, I know what the rent is here. And it's not cheap, but it's like, if you have a Lamborghini, why are you living here? Like, why is your car parked next to mine? Because I've looked at the prices. I've considered buying like a Huracan or a GT3. Like I could afford the payments, but I don't have a garage, which means it's like, I don't want to park my Lambo in
right next.
Like why? I want to park it in a garage, so it's like I need to go buy a house. I don't really want to buy a house right now, so I'm just pragmatic.
Right.
But I'll never know people's financial situations. But what I do know is that a lot of people are faking it. A lot of them are rentals, and it's just a vicious. It's a vicious cycle, and there's not an amount of money that you'll make that'll prevent you from like going broke here. Because you could go to any nightclub again and like, spend $2,000. You go to that same nightclub. If you've got it, you can spend $50K. Like I promise you, you can spend $100K. Like there's no limit to how much money you can waste in a city that's designed to just take your money.
Dang.
So it's got to be smart.
Definitely smart.
Yep.
I guess along the lines of Miami and relationships, don't get trapped funding a Miami mommy.
Whew, yeah. So
So a little, I guess, like context to that, I think oftentimes I've heard stories of men, supporting women financially, but getting stuck in that place where they really don't have the finances for them. But for some X reason, we might assume it could be one reason, but people,
what's the reason for that?
I think it's just pure lust. That's what I think.
Lust, ego.
Lust and ego.
So men enjoy having a pretty girl on their arm, 100%. Like, especially like these men who will fall into this, right? So I feel like there's a few different types of guys who fall into this, right? But I'd say suckers come in all shapes and sizes. They do. So like, there are guys who've like never, this is like your typical like red pill guy. Like they've never had access, I hate saying access to women, right? Women have never really been interested in them.
Right.
Right. And so they've never been in a place where they've saying no because women are interested in them. And Miami has a lot of women who are interested in money. So you get money and you have interest from women. Now, which women? In this case, it's women with money. So it's really easy for women to identify a guy like this because he's probably somebody who's like not super confident, right? But he's wearing like the Gucci belt, even though like the fit isn't fitted. It's kind of slapped together. He's just like an amalgamation of like logos, right? And like Guido haircut, it's like you can identify him. It's like, oh, that guy just got money because he has no style, but he's got logos plastered all over his body, right? And a nice car. That's like sucker number one.
Car and shoes.
Car and shoes.
And watch.
Yeah.
Those are I think the things that.
So if you're very gaudy, you're basically saying like, hey, this is what I'm signing up for. So that's the first guy, I think. But it's really just different flavors of that guy, I think. But it's like if you lead with money, you're going to fall into that trap. But I'm trying to think of the other idea that I had in my mind or the other flavor of guy. But yeah, it ultimately is going to be the guys who come down here who want a pretty girl. And there are a lot of pretty girls who will like take your money and you'll get into a quasi relationship. Mm-hmm. But then, like I said earlier, it's unsustainable.
Right.
And so she goes and finds, the next guy, or you just get bankrupted, right. And God forbid you have a kid together. Oh, no. And now you're broke, now you're really trying to sustain this lifestyle and raise a kid, which is crazy. So yeah, I just don't fall into that trap.
Honestly, go to therapy. It'll save you much more money. Therapy is expensive, but it's an investment. Yeah, there's just so many underlying issues there with that dynamic that I think therapy could help with.
Lay them on me. What are some that come to mind?
Well, I think issues? The biggest thing is, your ego, you're insecure. You feel like a beautiful woman's gonna give you meaning or value.
Yep.
Which is not the case.
It's not.
Because God forbid, you find a woman who's only interested for your money, and she is reinforcing that belief that you have about yourself, that you're not good enough, that you're not worthy if you don't have X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
So, and then if you're looking for a woman, it's kind of like a two-way street too. Like, what's your value in just a woman who's beautiful?
Yeah, which is important. I mean, and that's, I didn't even talk about the insecurity on that side. So for the men, they definitely are insecure. But I feel like a lot of women who do that are also insecure. They're trying to prove their value by getting a guy who will fund their lifestyle. Right?
For sure.
Which also goes to like the women who are getting all the work done. It's like, maybe I wasn't the most attractive girl growing up, but now I'm a 9 because I went to the doctor. So now I'm getting all these DMs, all this stuff that I was hearing about, and I can get whatever I want. But it's like, what are you giving up to get that?
Right.
Probably. I mean, I wouldn't say your soul, but like your self-worth becomes fully tied up in that interaction. So it's like when a guy isn't DMing you, or telling you you're beautiful, or offering to buy you something or giving you money, it's like, what do you feel about yourself?
Right.
So it definitely is just like two sides of like the same toxic.
Right. I think, do you agree that money and beauty hold the same weight, like in terms of value, where people find most value? It's in their, how much money's in the bank, and then if they look good.
I think beauty holds more power.
Than money?
Certainly, because a beautiful woman can make nearly any amount of money, like move to her whim, right? And by money, I mean guys with it. And like people, like men and women, just appreciate beauty. So I think beauty has more power. But money, on the flip side, is as soon as you like that beauty is beholden to like whatever money, you end up in that cycle. So, you know, I think it depends on how you look at it. You know, I like in my brain, like zooming out on both sides of it, like money makes the world go round. But I mean, I'm like one of the first things guys think about when they get money is like, oh, let me get a beautiful woman, right? And it's like, you know, it's crazy to think like, oh, you could just buy that, but like you literally can't.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so
that's what saddens
crazy.
me about our culture today, is that you can literally buy anything, and literally, not to get too like dark, but the biggest business in today's world is like selling other people.
Yep, sex trafficking and other forms of just trafficking.
Yeah,
It's big
which is
business.
insane. But anyway, that's good. That was a good conversation. I don't think I have anything else about that.
Cool.
Just go to therapy.
Go to therapy. You're a therapist.
I am a therapist. But I work with women.
Okay, so if you're a woman
So
seeking a therapist,
Yes.
do you do therapy now, or have you morphed your business, or it's still therapy?
yeah, therapy. So
Tell the people
I'm
about it.
practicing virtual, so across the state of Florida, because I could only practice in the state of Florida. And I have an office space that I can see clients in person in Davie.
Awesome.
So, I'm very passionate with empowering women with their value and worthiness. Because then again, like a lot of the messages that are bombarded for women is beauty, things that are on the outside. And really, like, it sounds cheesy, but it really does matter what's on the inside. Because I'm sure we can flip the coin. And I've heard like men also talk about this too, where she can be beautiful, but if she sounds dumb or there's like nothing going on in there, like,
Yeah, we're already at an hour though. So, but yeah, we can keep talking about that after.
You
but
know? Yeah.
Definitely, you don't want to commoditize your beauty. I'd say that.
yeah.
Right.
I think beauty is a gift, and
Yeah.
use it as such, but you, just like anything else, you have to be responsible with it.
Yep.
So I think the biggest thing that I like to help people with is managing their stress, their anxiety, helping them find purpose and meaning out of painful situations that they've gone through. I'm a big advocate for like, you decide on what life you want to live. Just because you came from this type of household, these types of parents, this type of situation, that doesn't guarantee that you're going to repeat the pattern or stay there.
Yep.
I think that's what gets me angry sometimes. And anger helps you propel into action, taking action about things. Like not getting stuck in that victim mentality, which is sometimes served or is a behavior from a survival mentality, which has been successful at times for people. Like if you've used that mentality, you've had benefits from it, and that's why you keep using it. But sometimes it doesn't work, you know?
Well, I know we're still going to wrap this, but you know, one of the primary reasons people get addicted to victimhood is attention, right? People pay attention to me when I say I'm hurt, but if everything's fine, nobody's looking. So that's the number one thing that I see why people always get stuck up in like the identity of this happened to me.
Right.
And I'm just like, it's not that I don't care. It's like I do care, But it's like you said, it's like
Yeah.
at some point there's like whatever the distance is between when that happened and now, like there's a point in time where they were together. It was like
Right.
the next day, the next month, the next year, for whatever the trauma is. But then eventually it's 5, it's 10, and maybe you're here, but it's like you got to figure out like who do you want to be when you're over here?
Right.
Like, do you always want to be the whatever?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the my ex died, my Y did this, the Z happened to me. It's like I don't want to be 78. The first thing's like, what? I was like, oh well, this happened to me when I was 12, and it's just like,
Right. Like the guy that tells the
talking
same
about?
story at every social function,
right? It's like,
dinner.
you've been alive all this time, and that's all that you have to say for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of how I think about it. It's like, come
Yeah,
on.
that's really sad. That's really sad. So definitely believe in agency, that you have the power, you know, to make change happen. But sometimes you do need an outsider perspective to point that out.
Yep.
Because you can be very stuck in a mentality or in a behavior, in a lifestyle that's not serving you. And like when you're in a place of darkness, it's dark, right? You can't see anything because there's no light. You need an outside light to shine and tell you,
I'm holding
show
in
you.
so many jokes.
I want to hear one
Yeah, you're good.
after.
You're on a thread.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So anyways, yeah, that's what I do. So
Thanks for watching, guys. If you're in Miami and a woman seeking therapy, hit up Andrea. She's happy to help. And for the rest of you, hit that subscribe and see you in the next video. Later.
I'm never gonna look back, 'cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast, and that's facts. Only I can make a change, slowly take